there is something about the way that we are currently just inflating people's self-esteem without actually the foundations there that I think might just are we breeding a little bit more narcissism than there should be in the population? Like, are we pushing more people into the expression of those traits?
I think so. Mark Leary, I have immense respect for him. He's a tremendous thinker. And he's right. The original idea was you actually succeed at things and you're successful, competent at your work, and morally good, and so you become confident and able to function and perform. But now there was the self-esteem movement, a concern that children don't have enough self-esteem, and that so we should never criticize them and tell them whatever they do is terrific. Um, and so that unfounded self-esteem that's not rooted in actual achievement, that is more on the pathway to narcissism. So, uh, what evidence we have is that levels of narcissism does seem to be increasing in the population over the last few decades, probably due in part to some of the things you talked about, the cultural shift toward we got to tell children to boost them and so on. And the thing is, it's wrong. Children start out with very high self-esteem. Uh,
I've
you
got a
know,
toddler, I know.
unless the parent is absolutely abusive and really nasty, most children have very positive views of themselves and only gradually come down to normal around the time of puberty and moving into the years when they become more self-aware of how others see them and can incorporate a more objective view into their self-views. But yes, children have very very positive views. So the whole assumption there was mistaken, as is the idea that there's an epidemic of low self-esteem. If you look at all the scales that measure self-esteem and all the samples that do it, so if the range of possible self-esteem scores runs from 0 to 100, say with some measure, so 50 would be the midpoint. But whatever you take a sample of modern adults, the mean, the average is usually more like 60 or 70. So people are objectively above the midpoint. And in fact, there are very few people toward the extreme low end. You'll find
Hmm.
if the range of possible self-esteem scores is 0 to 100, you'll certainly have people up there in the 90s, as close to the maximum self-esteem as they can get, and occasionally some do get even a perfect score. They love themselves, uh, but you won't find them down, below 20 or something. They're very few at that end. Most of the scores would be like maybe from 40 to 90. And that changed my understanding of self-esteem too, of what low self-esteem is. It's not thinking you're a bad person. And there are people like that, and especially mental illness might breed some of that. But in the normal population, um, low self-esteem is really the absence of the strong positive view. People with high self-esteem really do think they are good people, competent, superior, and so on. Low self-esteem is not the opposite, thinking that one's a terrible person. It's mostly just the absence. If you look at what they actually say on the questionnaires, it's not, no, I'm terrible. It's that, well, sometimes I'm good, sometimes bad, or I'm not sure. And a lot of responses right in the middle of the scale, which is, of course, how they would end up scoring 50 out of 100 by picking the middle answer.
Hmm.
And that we call that low self-esteem because it's in the lower half of the distribution, but it's not really low in an objective sense.